National 5 Maths, Practice Paper D, Paper 2. So for the first question, we're just looking to find out the average Scottish house price in 3 months. We've got the original price of 153,100. Now it's a 2.5% rise per month, so that's 100% plus 2.5% is 102.5%. So when we divide that by 100, it's going to be 1.025. It's over 3 months, so it's the power of 3. And if we multiply all these things together, we get 164,871.9547. That is 165,000, and that is to 3 significant figures. There's your third significant figure, it rounds up to 5. In question 2, you've got to find out what the mean is, the standard deviation, and making sure you show all of our working out there. So the mean is where you add them all together and divide. So the mean, if you add them all up, you get 99. You've got 6 items of data, so you're dividing by 6. So it's 16.5, and it's in millimeters as your mean. Now your standard deviation, we're going to set up a little table, put all the numbers into the table, and then use the standard deviation formula. So X stands for each item of data. X minus X bar, it's when you subtract the mean from each item of data, and then we're going to square each of those values. So it goes 15, 18. Now it doesn't matter if these are in order when you're filling in the table. You can put them in order if you want to, but you don't have to. Subtract the mean from each of these. So you're subtracting 16.5 from each of these numbers. Now, when you square each of these values, whether they're positive or negative, you should just have positives in this last column, no negatives there at all. So you square each of these numbers. When you add them all together, you get 17.5. Now the standard deviation formula is given to you in the formula sheet, so it is the square root of the sum of x minus x bar squared. That's just this number here, divided by n minus 1. N is 6 because there's 6 items of data, so 6 take away 1 is 5. So it's a square root of 17.5 over 5, and that is 1.87 millimeters. In the next part of the question, it says later the same 6 seedlings are measured again, each has grown by 4 millimeters. We've got to find the mean standard deviation of these new heights. Now, you don't have to go through all this process again. You notice they're only worth 1 mark each. Now, the mean, if you were to add 4 to all the items of data and then divide by your 6, they're all going to be just 4 millimeters bigger. So your mean was 16.5, but we're adding the 4 millimeters, which they all grew by. So your new mean is 20.5 millimeters. Now your standard deviation, they're still spread out the same amount compared to the mean. They've all grown by 4, but it's not that some have grown by more than others. They're all just grown by the same amount. The mean has increased by the same amount. So your standard deviation is unchanged. So it's still just 1.87 millimeters. Question 3, solve algebraically this question. So you must rearrange it. So we're going to subtract 1 from both sides first. So you can get 4 sine x equals negative 3. We're going to divide by 4. Sine x equals negative 3 over 4. Now we can see that sine is negative, so we can use our cast diagram. And we know here it goes 0, 90, 180, 270, 360. That's 180. Subtract 180 plus, and that's 360. Subtracting that section there. Okay, now sine is negative, so we're going to take off A for all and S for sine if it's positive, but it's not positive here. So it has to be the other two. So that's for positive, so it's going to be cos and tan. So make sure you take off the right ones. I nearly made a mistake there. So sine is negative, so that's why we're going for these two. But when you're doing the inverse sine, you don't put the negative in, just inverse sine of 3 over 4, and that comes out at 48.6 degrees. So you can get two answers when you're adding 48.6 to that and you're subtracting 48.6 from that. So 180 plus 48.6 gives us 228.6 degrees, and 360 minus 48.6, and that comes to 311.4 degrees. So those are two solutions.